The day the single father was dismissed with a polite smile and a quiet glance at his worn shoes, he did not raise his voice or tighten his jaw. He simply felt the familiar weight of being underestimated settle onto his shoulders, the same weight he had carried since the night he stood alone in a hospital hallway, holding his newborn son while the world he knew quietly collapsed. The $8 million house stood tall and sunlit at the end of a private road, all glass and stone and promise, but to the real estate agent that afternoon, it was clear this man did not belong there. And yet, within the calm of his tired eyes lived a story no one in that room could imagine. Before we go any further, take a second and pause right here. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the quiet strength of people who are too often overlooked, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment and subscribe to this channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. He had arrived in an old pickup truck that rattled softly when the engine cooled. The paint faded from years of sun and salt. The man stepped out slowly, adjusting the strap of his son's backpack over one shoulder. His son, barely 7, held his hand tightly, his other hand clutching a folded drawing of a house with a crooked roof and a tree out front. To the child, this was just another place they were seeing, another maybe in a long line of maybes. To the father, this was the end of a road he had been walking for nearly a decade. Years earlier, his life had been ordinary in the most beautiful way. He had been an engineer who loved numbers and structure, married to a woman who laughed easily and dreamed loudly. Then illness came quietly, then suddenly, and within months he was a widower learning how to braid hair, pack lunches, and hold himself together while his son slept beside him. Grief drained his savings faster than he expected. Hospital bills, therapy, and time away from work took their toll. He sold their first home, moved into smaller apartments, and learned how to live with less, all while promising his son that one day they would have a place that felt permanent again. What no one knew was that during the long nights, after his son fell asleep, he worked. He consulted, invested cautiously, built systems for companies that never saw his face, only his results. He lived simply, drove the same truck, wore the same jackets year after year, and said no to comfort so he could say yes to security. Over time, numbers grew, accounts multiplied. But his appearance never changed, and he never felt the need to explain himself to anyone. The house itself seemed almost unreal as they walked up the driveway. Sunlight reflected off tall windows, and the air smelled faintly of fresh grass and ocean salt carried in from miles away. Inside, the space opened wide with high ceilings and quiet elegance. The real estate agent moved ahead of them, polite but distant, speaking quickly, assuming faster. There was an edge of impatience in the way the rooms were shown, the way details were glossed over. The man noticed it, of course. He always noticed. Years of being overlooked had sharpened his awareness, not his bitterness. As they moved through the house, his son wandered from room to room, eyes wide, imagining where his toys might go, where he might do homework, where he could look out a window and feel safe. The father followed slowly, touching the walls, the railings, the smooth stone of the kitchen island. He wasn't impressed by luxury. He was measuring peace. He was picturing mornings without the sound of neighbors arguing through thin walls, nights without fear of rent increases, a place where his son could grow without packing boxes every year. The agent's tone subtly shifted as they reached the back terrace overlooking the hills. There was an unspoken conclusion forming, a gentle winding down of the showing. It was clear that the agent believed this visit was more curiosity than capability. The price was mentioned again, casually emphasized, as if to remind the man where he stood in the unspoken hierarchy of wealth and worth. That was when the father stopped walking. He did not argue. He did not bristle. He simply stated, calmly and evenly, that he would buy the house in cash. The words landed heavier than any raised voice ever could. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The wind moved through the trees. His son looked up at him, searching his face, trusting him completely. The agent smiled politely, uncertain, perhaps assuming misunderstanding or bravado, but the man did not repeat himself. He only reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone, and made a quiet call. What followed was not dramatic in the way movies make moments dramatic. There were no shouts, no public humiliation. There was only time. Documents requested, numbers verified, silence stretching longer than expected, and slowly, subtly, everything changed. As the real "itty" set in, the agent's posture shifted. The assumptions dissolved one by one. The casual tone became careful. The distance turned into attentiveness. But the man noticed something else more important than the change in treatment. He noticed how easily respect arrived once wealth was confirmed, and how absent it had been before. He filed that observation away, not with anger, but with resolve. While the paperwork moved forward, he sat on the terrace with his son. The boy leaned against him, tracing shapes in the stone floor with his fingers. The father thought about all the nights he had nearly given up, the moments he sat in his truck after long days and wondered if he was doing enough, if he was failing the one person who depended on him completely. He thought about the birthdays celebrated in small apartments, the Christmases where love filled the room even when money did not. Buying the house was not a victory over anyone else. It was a promise kept. As days passed and the purchase finalized, word spread quietly, not because of the price, but because of the story. Staff members who had barely noticed him before now spoke of his kindness, his patience, the way he treated everyone the same. Contractors who came to prepare the house noticed how he listened more than he spoke, how he asked about their families, how he involved his son in decisions so the boy would feel ownership, belonging. The house transformed, not through renovations but through presence. Laughter replaced echoes. Drawings went up on refrigerator doors. A small bedroom became a sanctuary filled with books and soft light. The man finally allowed himself to breathe differently, to sleep without the constant hum of worry beneath his dreams. But the most powerful change did not happen inside the walls of that $8 million home. It happened in the man himself. One afternoon, months later, he returned to the same real estate office, not to buy, but to thank. Not the agent who dismissed him, but the receptionist who had offered his son a glass of water that first day. He donated quietly to a housing program for single parents. He began mentoring young professionals who reminded him of himself years ago, exhausted but determined. He never told his story unless asked, and even then, he spoke more about perseverance than money. His son grew taller, stronger, more confident. He brought friends home, proud not of the size of the house, but of the warmth inside it. The boy learned early that worth was not measured by first impressions, and that dignity was something you carried, not something others granted you. Sometimes, late in the evening, the father would stand by the large windows and look out at the hills, thinking about how close he had come to walking away that first day, how easily doubt could have won. He understood now that people would always see what they expected to see. His job had never been to convince them otherwise. His job had been to keep going. As this story comes closer to its end, if it has touched your heart even a little, if it reminded you of your own struggles or someone you love, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who need them most. And before the ending, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with the words "Never judge quiet strength" if you believe that resilience often lives in silence. The man never became flashy. He never chased validation. He simply built a life where his son could feel safe, seen, and secure. The house, for all its millions, became just a backdrop to a much greater story, one of endurance, humility, and quiet triumph. And so the single father once dismissed with a glance and a smile proved something far more valuable than his ability to buy an expensive house. He proved that kindness can coexist with success, that patience can outlast prejudice, and that the people who speak the least often carry the heaviest, most meaningful victories within them.